How's it going, everyone? As always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. This is PSReady, my channel all about PlayStation. In this video, I've got two topics to cover because one is like a complete breakdown of all the drama that exploded with the PS5 Pro over the weekend. Because I don't know if you heard about this, the quality is all over the map with the patches. Like, some of them are great and some of them are absolutely abysmal. And then in positive news, we're going to talk about how this might be the best month ever to finally justify having a PSPlus premium subscription, because you are getting 17 games added to all of the different tiers. This video is sponsored by Scry. If you've watched the channel before, you've definitely heard of Scry because they have been a long-time sponsor of the channel, and this time they're back with two new products. First up, we have the Arctic AI-powered PS5 coolers starting at $39. Then we have the Nitro Flash PS5 heatsink SSD, which starts at $129. They sent over an Arctic AI-powered PS5 cooler, and let's get into the new features because it's a big upgrade. First up, there's the Smart Thermal AI chip. The chip allows the cooler to monitor the heat output of your PlayStation 5 and adjust the fan speed accordingly. So if you ever hit 50 degrees Celsius being outputted from your PS5, it'll kick the fans into maximum speed and then gradually decrease the speed once you drop below 49 degrees Celsius. Next, it has the dynamic hyperfluid fan. This upgraded patented fan dynamically adapts to the heat output of your PlayStation 5, so it'll always be cool at the optimal noise level, which is great. And third, it has lamella design for optimal airflow. Their patented lamella design covers a large surface area of the back of the PS5, so it ensures there will be zero blockage of the actual airflow that's coming out of the cooler, which is great. The first big benefit of using a cooler with your PS5 is that it optimizes airflow. None of the heat that's inside your PS5 will be trapped inside your PS5. It will be expelled by the cooler. The second reason you'll want one is because it'll protect your PS5 and boost its lifespan. It'll protect the internals from heat damage and extend their longevity. The third reason is it'll prevent shutdowns of your PlayStation 5. It'll keep it cool even during long gaming marathons. And fourth, it'll extend your playtime because keeping your console cool will keep performance at maximum. And this thing will keep working even when your PS5 is in rest mode to make sure all the heat gets out of it. This new Arctic V2 takes 2 to 3 minutes in rest mode to get all the heat out, and the Arctic S needs 3 to 5 minutes because the vents are smaller on the PlayStation 5 Slim. The link to the cooler is down in the description, and I highly recommend you check it out. Thanks again to Scry for sponsoring this video. So let's jump into this huge topic here, which is this whole drama situation surrounding the PS5 Pro. We all know that a lot of games have gotten PS5 Pro enhanced patches. I think the list is up to like 80 or 90 games, which was like double the amount of games that you got on the PS4 Pro. So that's largely very good. And some of these games are getting great patches, like the one game I didn't think would get a patch, Lords of the Fallen. It runs at the PC max spec now on PS5 Pro, and while that is definitely an outlier, there are other games that look and run incredible on the Pro, like Spider-Man 2, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2. Basically any Sony made game looks and runs freaking perfect with these new PS5 Pro enhancements, and even some third-party games like Hogwarts Legacy came out of the gate swinging with excellent patches. I've been bouncing between my PS5 Slim here in the basement playing that game and my PS5 Pro, which is on the big TV, which I obviously share with my wife, so when I'm not playing on that, I come down here. The difference is night and day. It looks really good on the PS5 Slim, like it looks like a next-gen game, which is nice because there are so few of those, but when you go onto the PS5 Pro and you see the ray tracing mode that's quality mode with ray tracing, holy crap, does it look good. When you open the doors into the Great Hall and you see the floating candles and the ray trace lighting, you get to the main corridor that's like in the middle of the castle and it's got the big fountain and everything like that, and the lighting is just reflecting off the floors. You go outside for some of the classes, you see the mist and the fog and everything's just high resolution. It looks just incredible. It looks like playing the Harry Potter movies I grew up watching as a kid. But unfortunately, two of the games that I really wanted to go back and play on the PS5 Pro have huge problems related to their patches. So we'll cover the first one, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. This game, I will never be able to stop talking about this game. You know, I played it, I enjoyed it. I think it's worse than the first game, and I don't know where they're going to take the story because they really didn't do a great job with it outside of the fact that the open world areas are great. I thought it was fine, but this game comes up constantly, mainly because they released it like 60% done. It ran like crap on PC. It ran like crap on the PS5. Then a full year later, they release a patch that runs at 60 FPS, which basically they just cranked the FSR up to ultra ultra performance, so it's like running at 240p. That's an exaggeration. And then they upscale it to like 1440p or 4K. It runs at 60. What is there to complain about? Then they port the game over to the PlayStation 4, and surprisingly, it's a decent port. But then with the PS5 Pro, I was like, great, we're going to be able to split the difference here. We're going to get decent resolution and the 60 FPS mode from the PS5, and everything's going to be great. Not the case. So what they did by releasing the PS5 Pro patch for Jedi Survivor is clean up a lot of bugs and everything like that, which is good, but they also replaced FSR with PSSR. And if you go back to my videos leading up to the launch of the PS5 Pro, that's what I was really excited about, because FSR, I'm gonna be real, sucks. It's terrible. They've had 3 versions of it that have budget version features of what you get out of DLSS, and while on console, it's good enough because there's really no other option. You can't use Intel XeSS. I know that Epic has their own version, but it's kind of proprietary to Unreal Engine games. So you really only have FSR, and what it does is give you 60 FPS gameplay. So it's like, yeah, it's not great. It largely sucks, but it does give you 60 FPS. So it's kind of what you got to live with, because games come out unfinished these days and you just have to brute force your way through it with upscalers. So I was excited to see PSSR being added into this game, and it's not good. It makes the game look noticeably worse. Like if you watch the Digital Foundry video where they break this all down, they show footage of it running with FSR before in performance mode and PSSR in performance mode, and it looks like they turned on Nintendo Switch mode on the PS5 Pro. Everything is muddy, everything is globby, everything is blocky and more pixelated. It just doesn't look that great. Performance wise, it's still 60 FPS and it's a little bit smoother of a 60 FPS, but image quality wise, it doesn't look that good, and that's bad because it's not the PS5, it's the PS5 Pro. It's supposed to look better and run better, not run the same and look noticeably worse. Thankfully for both of the games I'm going to talk about, but I'll talk about that after I cover the next game, Silent Hill 2. I thought this would be a no-brainer easy fix on the PS5 Pro, and I was excited to play it there because it was almost there on the PS5. I tried both the PC version and the PS5 version at launch. PC version, mess. Terrible, just not good. You get stuttering, you get pop-in, it's hard to run it at 60 FPS no matter what settings you use. So I was like, oh, I'll pick it up on PS5 and refund it on Steam. Performance mode leaves a lot to be desired. It never runs at a locked 60. I mean, there's some instances in the beginning and everything like that, but once you get into the town of Silent Hill and you're walking through the apartment building, you're walking through the hospital, the frame rate is all over the freaking place. And so I said, oh, I'll play it in quality mode. I'm fine playing games at 30 FPS because developers, I've been beating this drum for the better part of this generation, and they don't care because people buy games regardless of performance, it seems. They don't care to finish their games. So I want to play the games. I'm going to play them at 30 FPS mode because that's where I get the most consistency. It's not very consistent. You get a lot of stuttering. You get a lot of pop-in. Unreal Engine 5 is abysmal. So that's what I had to deal with on PS5. I was like, okay, we're getting better hardware. It's going to be able to brute force its way past the vast majority of these issues. But the problem, once again, comes down to the PS5 Pro patch itself, because they didn't spend enough time on it. It feels like they just ported it over throughout the patch, didn't even test it, because there's footage of this. You in the intro area where you're in that parking lot and you see all the puddles and the atmosphere and everything, like the fog, and you're like, ooh, I'm being immersed in the Silent Hill atmosphere. It looks terrible. It's like all blocky. The reflections don't work anymore. The pixelated edges around the puddles are 10 times worse even than they are in the performance mode on the regular PS5. Like, legitimate graphical features are broken. And it's really because of this lazy job that they did making the patch. And I know people on Twitter, like games journalists or whatever, get mad when you call developers lazy, but it's impossible to look at these patches and this work that they put into these games and not call them lazy, because it's such basic oversight, unforced error bullshit that we're constantly dealing with what it seems like is every non-first party game. There's even more problems to cover, but for these two games, there is a fix coming. Allegedly, the reason that the PSSR implementation is not working in these games is because the developers, so Respawn Entertainment for Jedi Survivor and Bloober Team for Silent Hill 2, they used an old version of PSSR and they didn't bother to update it to the latest version like seemingly every other game did with their patches, and this older version is not up to snuff. It looks worse than FSR, and that makes sense, right? Like, this is new technology. I'm not gonna crap on PSSR because it's almost as good as DLSS at launch. It is largely, when implemented correctly and with the latest version, much better than FSR and almost as good as DLSS, which is incredible for a first generation version of this product. Like, they came out with a good thing and developers are being lazy and not using it correctly. So hopefully soon, of course, we're going to get patches for both Jedi Survivor and Silent Hill 2 that use the latest version of PSSR, but I really hope they also take the time to actually play their games and, you know, look at them before and after, instead of just releasing the patch to get the little badge on your store icon that says PS5 Pro Enhanced, because that will drive more sales. Because, you know, if you're putting all this time and energy into making these games, which takes 4 to 5 years now, you'd think at the finish line, you wouldn't just give up and just throw it out, right? Like, you'd think that they'd spend time testing these games out, making sure they look and actually run better than they did on the PS5. But as we've seen with the launch of the PS5 Pro, that's asking too much of these developers. And I'm really getting sick of it, because it would just be nice for these games to not need months of patches, or even years in the case of Jedi Survivor, to actually be deemed good enough to be released. Not even like good, just good enough to be released. They're releasing games too early, and it's getting to be too much. And that kind of brings us to the third part of the whole problem that's been created with the PS5 Pro, and that's related to the patches as well. And it comes down to the mode. So like performance mode, quality mode. In the perfect world, you would leave the old modes in place, right? Like, you'd keep the old performance mode, you'd keep the old quality mode, and then you could say, well, if you want a rock solid 60 FPS, you can use the regular PS5 version of the performance mode. But if you want a little bit of like frame wonkiness and you want to make sure you have ray tracing enabled and everything like that, you can then use the PS5 Pro performance mode and you'll get all those extra features and higher frame rates. But a lot of these games are removing the performance presets from the PS5 version. So one that I've seen a lot of people complaining about is Star Wars Outlaws. That game got big upgrades, right? Like, it got huge upgrades for the PS5 Pro. The image quality is improved, the 60 FPS mode is improved, but the frame wonkiness is bugging people. So initially on the regular PS5, it had a 40 FPS mode that you could drop to get higher quality graphics and 40 FPS, which is good if you have a 120 FPS TV, because 40 FPS feels way closer to 60 than 30 does. It's awesome. But they removed that with the PS5 Pro version, and people are begging for them to add it back in because, once again, they didn't fully test the PS5 Pro performance and quality modes in this game, and it looks and runs worse to a lot of people's eyes. And I saw a lot of articles not putting any blame on Sony, but it really is also on Sony. They should have vetted a lot of these patches before the launch of the PS5 Pro, right? Like, I get why you would want to put trust in developers, because it seems like a very easy thing to do, to say, well, they're not going to just purposely destroy the image quality and frame rate of their games while also removing graphics modes that worked well on the regular PS5. Who would do that? That's completely insane. But then, because they didn't go through the legwork to actually check these developers' work, especially with Silent Hill 2, which is a console exclusive on PS5, that's exactly what happened. The developers pushed out the patches early, didn't use the latest version of PSSR, and the experience is largely worse on the PS5 Pro than it was on the PS5. Now, a lot of people are going back to the PS5 to play these games, but because the PS5 Pro is $700, a lot of people sold their PS5s or traded them in to get the Pro, and now they're kind of stuck in the exact same position we've been in before, where you're just waiting for the patch to come out for a $70 game. Am I crazy? Is it weird that I want my games to look and run correctly on my $700 console, or even at the very least my $500 console? Because the way that this stuff is presented lately, I feel like I'm being presented as the crazy one for wanting that to be the case. But anyway, that brings us to the positive news story of this video, which is that this is one of the best months for PS Plus in history, because we are getting 17 games if you are subscribed to PS Plus Premium. But no matter what tier you're in, it seems like we're all being supported with good stuff. So starting with Essential, we're getting games like Death Note: The Killer Within, which is a brand new game. I don't know if it's good, but it's nice to see a game launching into PS Plus Essential. We haven't seen that in a while. We're also getting Ghostwire Tokyo, which was a PS5 console exclusive. Despite Xbox buying Bethesda, they still had to honor that deal. And when they released it on Xbox, they released a patch for it that makes it look and run a little bit better, but also adds in some cool twists that make the game better overall. And finally, we're getting Hot Wheels Unleashed 2. Now, this game didn't sell very well, but from everything I've read about it, it's better than Hot Wheels Unleashed, which is a fan favorite from people who've played it. Like, racing fans absolutely love Hot Wheels Unleashed. So if you haven't picked up the sequel, which is probably true because no one bought it, now you can just get it for free with your PS Plus Essential subscription. And as far as the extra catalog goes, there's some great games, starting out with Chivalry. My friend Ray, who runs Xbox Ready, he loves this game. He puts hours and hours into it. It's a multiplayer knight simulator where you use the sticks to swing your sword, and it looks goofy when you're watching it in video, but I played it with them once and it is a lot of fun. Clash Artifacts of Chaos is the second game, never heard of it. Digimon Survive is kind of like a good game that bait and switch people. It kind of was presented as like the Digimon equivalent of a Pokemon game or like an Atlas JRPG, and it's really like more of a visual novel, but if you didn't buy it, you could at least try it on PS Plus Extra. Dying Light 2 apparently has gotten a ton of patches since I played it. I was so excited for this game and I was so disappointed when it came out, but apparently with guns and everything like that, it becomes a much better game, and I am extremely excited for the new expansion standalone game thing that's coming out allegedly next year that includes Kyle Crane as the main playable character, and like for free on PS Plus Extra. I think it's worth trying out. It's a cool open world zombie game. It's like new medieval, like the apocalypse is so far past technology age that everyone kind of reverts to medieval status. GTA 5 is being added back in. I'd be shocked if you didn't own this game already, but if you're one of the few people who waited and have PS Plus Extra, you're being rewarded, so give that game a shot. Hungry Shark World and Killer Frequency, never heard of those, but they might be cool. My best friend George's favorite game of the past couple of years, Like a Dragon Ishin, which is the samurai version of Yakuza. Like, it goes way back to samurai times and uses all the same characters. I've heard it's really good. That's getting added to the list. MotoGP 24 is apparently a photorealistic game. It's a motorcycle racing game that people really enjoy in that super niche world of motorcycle racing games. And then finally, Stick Fight the Game and Sims 4 Island Living are being added, so that's pretty good overall. There's a game for everyone, it seems like. I'd recommend at least trying out Dying Light 2 and Like a Dragon Ishin. And then finally, on premium, we are getting some cool games. Most of them are streamed, but some of them can be downloaded. Blood Omen Legacy of Kain and Legacy of Kain Blood Omen 2. Those are two games that my friend Ralph over at SkillUp really enjoys. He's like the reason I know what they are. I don't know if this is the remastered versions or the originals, but I played the first one of these on my Steam Deck, emulating them from the PS1, and it's weird how well they hold up. Like, these are good 3D games on the PS1, so if you've got premium, I recommend checking them out. And then I got so excited because I saw Resistance Fall of Man and Resistance 2 on this list, and I was like, are they stealth announcing PS3 emulation? But no, you can stream them. Still, it's nice to see Resistance getting some love from Sony, because while Insomniac tweets about it all the time, Sony has not shown any interest in Resistance other than putting Resistance Retribution onto the store for the PSP, and that actually looks and runs pretty good. I did a video going through all the PS2 and PSP and PS1 games a little while ago where I tried out the performance, and that one impressed me a lot. But yeah, pretty great month for PS Plus. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'm going to try out this Death Note game because it's free and I actually like Death Note. But yeah, as always, my name is Jimmy Champagne. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and shape on.